The message hit my screen at the exact moment my life was supposed to be perfect. "You are fired. Consider it my gift to you." I stood there frozen in my wedding dress, bouquet still clutched in my hands, the scent of roses suddenly turning sour in my throat. Just minutes earlier, I had walked down the aisle, smiled through happy tears, and promised forever to the man I loved. Now I was standing in the quiet corner of the church vestibule, staring at those words as if they might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. They did not. The message came from Daniel Carter, my boss's son, the same man who had spent the last 3 months slowly turning my dream job into something unbearable. And somehow, he had chosen today, my wedding day, to end my career with a single text. I showed the phone to my husband, Ethan, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold it steady. I expected anger, maybe even outrage on my behalf. Instead, he looked at the screen, then back at me, and a small, calm smile spread across his face. It was not dismissive or careless, but knowing, like he was already 10 steps ahead of something I could not yet see. He gently took my hands, pressed his lips to my knuckles, and said quietly that I should check my messages later because today belonged to us. I did not understand how he could be so composed. I had just lost my job, the position I had poured to exhausting years into building. I had sacrificed sleep, weekends, and nearly every piece of my personal life to earn that role. Yet something in his eyes made me pause. There was certainty there and trust. So I did something that felt almost impossible. I silenced my phone, handed it to my maid of honor, and walked back into the celebration. When the doors opened and the guests showered us with cheers and petals, I forced myself to smile, to laugh, to pretend that nothing had just shattered behind the scenes of my life. 3 hours later, during our first dance, my maid of honor rushed toward us with wide, alarmed eyes. She told me my phone would not stop ringing. When she handed it back, I saw over 100 missed calls. My coworkers, my team, numbers from the office. And one name that stood out above all the rest. Richard Carter, the company founder, Daniel's father. That was the moment I realized this was not just a simple firing. Something much bigger was unfolding. And I was standing right in the middle of it. Before that day, I had been the backbone of a company called Apex Structural Group. I was not flashy or loud, but I was precise. I remembered everything, from client preferences to minor blueprint revisions that others overlooked. People joked that I was like a walking system database, but the truth was I had built that system myself. I grew up in a home where discipline mattered. My parents were both teachers who believed in effort over talent. When my father suffered a stroke during my first year of college, I nearly gave up everything to help my family financially. Instead, I worked nights, took extra classes, and refused to let my future collapse. That determination followed me into my career. When I joined Apex, I was given a simple task that quickly became something much larger. I designed a project management system that tracked every detail of every project. It connected budgets, timelines, engineering approvals, and client requests into one seamless structure. It was not just software. It was the foundation that allowed the company to run smoothly. The results were undeniable. Projects finished faster. Mistakes dropped, clients were happier. Richard himself once told me I was the smartest investment he had ever made. Then his son came back into the picture. Daniel was confident, polished, and completely unqualified for the position he was handed. When Richard stepped back from daily operations, Daniel took over as department head. Almost immediately, everything changed. Meetings I used to lead, I was suddenly excluded from. Ideas I developed were presented as his. Training sessions I organized were canceled without explanation. The environment shifted from collaborative to suffocating, and I could feel my position becoming more fragile with each passing week. Around that same time, I met Ethan. He worked at the city permit office, reviewing submissions from companies like mine. Unlike most people in that role, he actually cared. He read through documents thoroughly, asked questions, and made sure everything met safety standards. Our first conversations were about technical details, but they quickly turned into something deeper. He became my calm in the middle of chaos. What I did not know then was that he had started noticing something troubling. Some of the submissions coming from Apex, specifically those handled by Daniel, were being altered after approval. Safety elements removed, materials downgraded. Critical changes made without proper oversight. By the time we got engaged, Ethan had already begun documenting everything. And then came my wedding day. After listening to Richard's desperate voicemails in the bridal suite, everything clicked into place. Daniel had fired me without authority. My system, the one I had built, was something no one else fully understood. And without it, the company was paralyzed. For the first time in a long while, I felt something shift inside me. Control. Ethan sat beside me and quietly explained what he had been seeing, the alterations, the risks, the potential consequences if those buildings had been constructed with those changes. It was not just unprofessional, it was dangerous. We made a decision that day, though it felt more like a realization than a choice. We would do nothing. Not that day, not during our honeymoon, not while the company scrambled without me. We left for our trip the next morning, and for an entire week, I ignored every call, every message, every increasingly desperate offer. The salary increases, the promises, the pleas. None of it mattered anymore, because it had never been about money. When we returned, I took a different path. I registered my own consulting firm, focused on creating compliance systems and ethical project oversight. Within days, I had my first contract with the city. When Richard finally reached me, his voice was filled with urgency. He asked me to name my price to return. I calmly told him I was no longer available for employment. But I also made it clear that I was now working with the city, designing systems that would expose exactly the kind of shortcuts his company had been taking. He understood immediately. Within weeks, the consequences unfolded. The project Daniel had mishandled was investigated. Violations were uncovered. Contracts were lost. The company's reputation collapsed faster than anyone expected. Meanwhile, my business grew. Months passed, then a year. On the anniversary of my wedding, I received a letter from Richard. It was not defensive or manipulative, it was honest. He admitted his mistakes. He acknowledged the damage caused by his decisions and his son's actions. He asked for a meeting, not to bring me back, but to seek guidance. Curiosity led me to accept. When I walked back into that building, everything felt different. New staff, new systems, a different atmosphere. And waiting in the conference room were both Richard and Daniel. Daniel was no longer the same man. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something quieter. He apologized, not with excuses, but with acknowledgement. Richard presented their new systems and asked for my evaluation. Then Daniel placed two things in front of me: a check covering the full cost of my wedding, and a drive containing my original system. In that moment, I understood something important. Revenge does not always come from striking back. Sometimes it comes from simply moving forward and letting consequences catch up to those who created them. I did not take the check. Instead, I set my own terms. If I worked with them, it would be under strict conditions, full transparency, complete control over compliance, and Daniel would personally go through every training process, no matter how basic. He agreed. As I walked out of that building, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not anger, not satisfaction, but clarity. Because the truth was, my story was never about losing a job. It was about discovering exactly how much I was worth when everything was stripped away, and realizing that sometimes the worst moment of your life is simply the beginning of something far greater than you ever planned.